Hi everybody. If you have gotten to this screencast-o-matic video, then you have completed steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and have already had a very, very rich discussion with your team. You also are aware that this is the last time you'll be meeting with this particular team as you have been assigned to a new team. And so please remember that the group leader will be responsible to reach out to the new teammates and decide where everybody's going to meet to work together a week from today. And also a reminder from the announcement that there will be no assignment on Thursday. There will be no Zoom on Thursday because that is a school holiday. And so I'm giving you that day. Recognize that we have lost 2 full days, one at the beginning of the term and then this week. And so it's going to be a little bit of a race to the border at the end, but I know that we can do it. I just want to make sure you get everything that you need out of this particular class. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on our slideshow. Ooh, sorry about that. Okay, so this is a very short lecture that I'm going to have here about understanding basic psychological needs of your students. And this part is crucial as the beginning of our discussion of behavior. So we will start here with who are your students, what do they need? Then you're going to talk and think about yourself and your own leadership qualities, your own values, and the things that you're going to bring into the classroom, because those things determine how you discipline. Just like the discussion from one of our teams about how parenting styles are going to influence teaching styles and how you feel about that. That group did such a great job of connecting that to education. The way that you plan to discipline is actually already in your DNA. So it's how you responded to discipline, it's experiences that you had. It's what you've seen in classrooms as a student and then later as a student leader and in a practicum. And all of those things really are going to form how you handle behavior. And I'm going to be very clear about stating right now that behavior is not misbehavior. We use those words interchangeably, the student has lots of behaviors and no one's behaving. I mean, it's confusing. Like, is behavior positive or negative? Behavior is neither. Behavior is communication. And the behavior that your students are exhibiting at any given point is very similar to the behavior that your fellow teachers in your future school will be exhibiting. And that behavior, whatever it is going to be communicating feelings, needs, wants, desires. And that's really all that it is. And it's super duper important that we understand the student, we understand ourselves, and then we can make good, solid decisions. I will help you with those good, solid decisions and share resources with you that will help you determine what your behavioral response will be and plans that you will put in place to help students to achieve their best every single day. And that will go into your behavior plan, which will be the next important part of your classroom management plan this term. It's important to remember that you want to have the slides open on a different computer and have this video running, because you will pause this video in order to click links within the slideshow, just like last time. So basically, teachers, school leaders, and sometimes even parents kind of decide that behavior comes into the classroom, and so misbehavior does as well. And if a student is misbehaving in the classroom, it's really reflecting things that happen outside of the school's control. So they are basically just parroting what they see. And so when a student misbehaves, well, it must be, the parents' fault or the community's fault or the cultural issues' fault, but it's something that the school can't control because they're not causing it. I want you to think about that. Is it fair and right for teachers and school leaders to say there is nothing that we do during the school day that could be causing students to give us communication in the form of behavior that we perhaps don't like? The other sort of erroneous thing that we as schools will do is that we have this one-size-fits-all approach, and we apply strategies and consequences to every student in the exact same way. When you think about that, it's a little bit crazy because students are all so different, and they come into school with different experiences, different values. They are at different developmental levels. Not every first grader is exactly the same in terms of their maturity and abilities. And so when we have a one-size-fits-all approach, it becomes very difficult in order to apply that in a fair way. And that's where you see some inequities that can happen. And so while there has to be basic rules that the school will abide by in order for everyone to stay safe, it's super duper important that you as a teacher apply those rules in a way that is fair and equitable to each of your students. And while that seems daunting, I can promise you that once you get into the groove of it and you have a really good understanding of what your school rules are and what your principal expects you to do in terms of applying discipline, how you feel about it, how your students feel about it, and how the parents feel about it, you're going to find that for the most part, people are on the same page. Parents want a happy, confident student in school doing well, and so do you. And so it kind of becomes this balance. Are there social concerns that impact schools? Yes. And I've actually showed you this slide before. So I'm just going to remind you that yes, there are many, many, many things outside of that classroom door that are going to impact behavior in school, and they're going to impact how your students communicate with you. This is very frustrating because these things are really outside the scope of what you're able to address or deal with. And so while that can be daunting, I think just understanding that those things do impact schools is helpful. But also understand that there are lots and lots and lots of ways that school can be a safe haven. It can be a place where especially young children can come to sort of escape some things that might be happening. And we want it to be that place where learning happens. Okay, you're going to basically, once I discuss what's on the slide, you're going to stop and click the link and watch the news article about this topic. So Amy Sinclair, she's a Republican in Iowa. And basically, she was one of the first in the nation to really say, okay, what are we going to do about threatening and violent behavior as a state? So in general. And so she worked with a team of other legislators, and they came up with standards and guidelines. And like anything else, when you apply really broad brushstrokes to things, it can be wonky. But I think and believe that she and the teams that worked on this had the right idea in mind. And that is that teachers are not protected in classrooms. Now, as you may know, having worked in some of our local classrooms, in a smaller town, there are absolutely big town issues, big city issues, but we don't see them to the same degree. And so, but that you have no idea where the Lord is going to place you. You have no idea what students are going to come into your classroom. And I can promise you that New York City, Des Moines, and Orange City are not going to look that different when you have a student that comes in that is absolutely struggling with mental health issues, with emotional and behavioral disorders, and with trauma. And so what Amy saw is that 50% of teachers are kind of experiencing or witnessing violence in the state. And so what she basically set up is that there was an idea of classroom clear. And classroom clear meant that you would clear the classroom of students, leave the student that was doing the negative behaviors behind, and then you would leave with the other students for protection. But what happened was that particular student became very enraged by that situation, and would sometimes trash the classroom behind the teacher and students who had left. And also, it sort of put the teacher in a pickle because they were in the hallway with the class, but yet the student in need was alone inside the classroom. There's lots of evidence that says this is not actually effective. And so what it basically did was it allowed teachers to physically relocate the student rather than the class. It's very unclear what that physical relocation looks like in this particular bill. It can be basically used in many, many different ways. So that's something that's going to be important as you get into classrooms in the future, to find out what you legally can do, because this can look very different. But it also put in a reporting system for incidents so that those could be tracked. And it also brings in, and this is the most important part of this bill, a grant program so that therapeutic classrooms and alternative settings could be set up for students. We saw this a little bit in the previous week when it had quiet corners, right? And places where students could go to sort of address their feelings. Well, there are also places, which you'll see in future videos, of quiet rooms with, beautiful places to sit and think, low lights, fish tanks, sound machines, all these things that have been set up for students to go and sort of process. And it is also providing more support for mental health for students. So go ahead and pause, watch this news article about Amy Sinclair and her work. Okay, on the next slide, I want you to really think about productive management of misbehavior. So when it is managed quickly, confidently, and the student has the need met that is coming through their communication, because behavior is communication, basically it works best when we really find out why the student has the behavior that we don't enjoy. We sort of look at the classroom variables that are impacting behavior. So it is not just outside the school. It is not just inside the student. It is, in fact, inside our classrooms and how we relate to students, how students relate to each other, and the kinds of directions that we give and the kinds of work that we give. All those things do impact students. And we create an environment that really is sensitive to student needs. Okay, so what do they need? For each slide, I'm going to share with you the category of things that students need. And then at the bottom of that is I want you to pause the video at the end of each slide, and I want you to talk about how are you going to infuse this idea into room 102? And room 102 is your future classroom. So everybody is going to be in a different room 102, and I want you each to have the opportunity to say what you might do to infuse this concept. So students require, need, and want belonging, significance, and love. And they will do whatever they can do in order to get those things. Basically, we all really just want to matter. We all really just want to serve a purpose. And so we're designed that way. I'm going to ask you to have somebody pull up these Bible verses on their phone and take a look at them, because it's really, really important, if you come from a place of faith, that you understand where and who, where we come from and who we belong to. And that sort of central value, if you hold it, is one that you can use to help to infuse belonging, significance, and love. And while there are lots of ways that we are not to use, the Bible or the words of the Bible in schools, it is not actually illegal to do so. But more importantly than using those words is using those values. So pause the video and talk about how you would help a student reach this need for belonging, significance, and love. Mastery and competence. So every student, from the littlest 3-year-old in a pre-K program all the way up to graduate students, honestly, they want to master a concept, and they want to be seen as competent. They want to be seen as somebody who can do it. And so for the student, they want to be able to perform whatever that task is that is socially valued. This is where you really get into classroom climate and classroom culture. Socially valued tasks are ones that students see as important and sort of like lifts their how they're viewed by their peers. And so if a socially valued task is math, that's fantastic. And if you can help the students that be part of the culture, learning and trying no matter what. However, sometimes socially valued tasks are really off task. And they're things like being a class clown, playing around, causing drama during collaboration, like whatever it is that they think is going to kind of up their social level, they might do. So that's important. And that kind of leads back to us as teachers in our classroom. And our students are kind of always asking themselves, is this valuable? Am I learning anything? How do I know that I'm learning those things? Because it doesn't matter. Even students with significant intellectual needs are learning and want to learn and actually seek to do that. Pause the video and talk about how you are going to inspire mastery and competence in your future classroom. Okay, this next slide. Students want, seek, and desire independence, power, choice, and freedom. Classrooms that allow for these things, that allow for student voice and student choice in the kinds of topics that we discuss, the way that we discuss them, and then the way that students show you how they've learned. This is very, very important to students. It basically sets them up for a lifetime of advocacy and independence. And students really want to have control over their environment. Frankly, guys, just like we do as, adults. We don't want to be told everything. We want to be able to choose. Well, so does the very smallest child. And the truth is, when we feel independent, when we have some power in our environment and some freedom to choose, we're really more open to feedback. And feedback is an important mechanism that teachers use to, help students reach their potential, to help misunderstandings, to help students learn things that they are struggling with. Please pause the video and click on the link, and please watch this very important video about cultural responsiveness and being trauma sensitive. Okay, and now that you have watched the video, please discuss how you would infuse this into your future classroom. Generosity and virtue. Oh my goodness. It has been found just through my own years of being a teacher and an administrator and a coach. Kids really want to do the right thing. They honestly 100% do. And so it's really important that we understand that kids value, want, and desire generosity and virtue. They want to help others. They want to look out for the needs of their classmates. They want to be part of a team. They do have a value system that's built into them that is coming from their families and from their friends and from their cultural group and their community. And so when you can make this possible for students to use their skills of generosity to work collaboratively, to help other students be successful, to be part of a team, they will thrive. As students grow older, though, this kind of diminishes. And I'd like you just to talk to your team about why older students, high schoolers, middle schoolers, they're not as concerned about being good. They're not as concerned about showing others that they're doing the right thing. They're not as concerned about being generous. And I would like you to discuss that. Pause this video and discuss that with your team. So I wish I could have heard that discussion. What we're really finding, of course, and maybe you guys mentioned this, is that those social mores and the importance of peers can come in and is very much important in growth and development. And so sometimes that like adolescent development where everything is stewing inside the student can actually block those kinds of behaviors. It's almost like the receptors are broken for a little while in middle schoolers and high schoolers and even older teens. And they start to say, you know what, it's not so much about following the rules. It's more about following my own path. And sometimes that path is to get ahead at all costs. And so that's just something to consider. Please discuss how you would infuse generosity and virtue into your future classroom. And then we'll go on to the next slide. Okay, you just recently hopefully attended the trauma conference, so I'm not going to go deeply into this idea, but a trauma-sensitive classroom is really, really important to meet student needs. When you can respond calmly and predictively, so basically your students can count on you to apply discipline and love in a very easy way, a way that they can predict, they will be happier, okay? And that will actually help with some misbehavior. That routine and structure that we've been talking about and that you thought through and will put into a classroom management plan, those things are very, very important because they help students who are struggling with mental health issues, who are not able to process their feelings well. That will give them a safe place to be while they go through those things. Within a trauma-sensitive classroom, one of the number one things that you'll do is you'll have self-regulation and coping skills built in, and you'll be teaching them direct instruction of those things. So high school teachers, you're going to kind of get off the hook a little bit. And this is where the elementary teachers will shine, because if they do their job in terms of teaching these self-regulation and coping skills, then your students will have them when they get to you. Now remember, there will be a little bit of a disconnect as adolescents can creep in and cause some issues, but you may have to reteach some of these things, or there will be certain students who did not pick them up, and you will have to do some direct modeling and teaching of those things. But for the most part, we're going to thank our elementary teachers for setting the stage for that and doing the hard work. So please pause this video and watch the video at the link. And that is the end of this slideshow. So at this point, you have completed the tasks for today with your team. You have already uploaded your individual assignment, and you have watched this short lecture. I hope that you had a great time of learning. I miss being able to be with you guys. I'm again so appreciative of your class presentations from last week. There was lots and lots and lots of things for you to learn there, and I'm hoping that as you were watching them that you were able to take some notes. I will also be posting each of those slideshows into our Blackboard so that you will have them. Have a fantastic Easter break. Those of you that will find yourself in church, please pray for our class, pray for Northwestern College, pray for our country, and I will be praying for each of you. Don't forget to check back on Blackboard to see what your new group is, who the new group leader is, and new group leaders, please contact your groups ASAP so that they can make a plan for next Tuesday. Remember, we will not see each other this Thursday, and we will see each other a week from Thursday on Zoom, and you will work a week from today together. Take care.